Hello and welcome to today's office hours session. This is Paul Hoyt. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it. Our office hours is a relaxed, informal mentoring program that we hold every Monday at noon Pacific time. This recording will be available online for a few days, and then all our recordings will be archived in our members area. And we're getting ready, by the way, to open up all of the office hours recordings into my YouTube channel, so stay posted for a notice that's coming out on that as soon as we do it. The reasons that we do office hours is because I know that being a successful small business owner can be a great experience, but I also know firsthand that it's very tough. You need the education, the training, the tools, the team, the coaching, the consulting in order to make it less of a struggle and more of a success. I also want you to get to know me, because when you do, you'll know that I really do care about you. And I've been thinking about that this past week while I was at the CEO Space Business Growth Conference. I found this new way of expressing the way that I feel about everybody that I want to share with you for the first time right now. And it's this. First and most importantly, I want you to know that I care about you. I want you to succeed in every area of your life, whatever that means to you. I really want you to find the greatness, the happiness, the divinity within yourself, and then remember it, embrace it, and live it every day. That's what I try to do every single day, and that's my wish for you as well. With office hours, our agenda is pretty much the same. It's an in-depth discussion of a business success principle. Then we have some closing remarks, some special offers, an invitation for next week's session, and open questions and answers. First, questions and discussion around the topic of the day, and then open it up for just about anything that you want to chat about. I encourage you to join us online at the Facebook Brilliant Business Group, which is facebook.com/groups/Brilliant Business, where you can make comments, ask questions, and show your takeaways and insights from the presentations. Also, like my business page on Facebook if you haven't done that already. Today's topic is called Getting Zappoed, that you can deliver happiness too. It's based on the book Delivering Happiness by Tony Hseih, who's the CEO of Zappos and a very famous fellow. And as we go through the presentation today, you're going to see exactly why he is so famous and so well respected in our industry. As usual, I relate the topic of the office hours presentation to one or more of the key performance areas of business that I defined in my 2004 book called The Foundation Factor, and which I use in all of my consulting and coaching engagements these days. And this particular subject, delivering happiness, is square in the area of leadership and in customer service and in delivery of service. This is really focused on delivering exceptional customer service, as you will see. In today's conversation, we'll talk about Tony Hsei's beginnings and his history as a serial entrepreneur. We'll talk about some lessons that he learned in playing poker that I found to be extremely beneficial. We'll look at Zappos' growth history and understand how they did it, how they grew from virtually no sales to over $1 billion in sales in just 10 short years. We'll talk about 10 ways to instill great customer service at your company, the 10 core values for which Zappos is most famous, and some other quotes that I found in the book that I thought I would really want to share with you. And then we'll sum it all up with the bottom line. So Tony Hseih, I guess, has always been a serial entrepreneur, and it started with a worm farm. When he was like 8 years old or 10 years old, he was looking in a magazine and saw that he could get his own worm farm for just like $300, and he talked his parents into doing that. And he got this worm farm, and he put a nice little earth area there and put all of his earthworms in this area to make sure that they were going to grow, and he fed them egg yolks and did all kinds of stuff, only to come back a couple of weeks later and found out that all of his worms were gone. It appears that he didn't seal the bottom of his little earthworm container, and all of the earthworms just totally vanished. So his first business was a bust. But that didn't stop him. He moved into catalog sales, where he found out that, hey, you could just put an ad in one of these catalogs and people would just send you checks and money, and you could send stuff back to them. And he was successful for a little bit, but he also had his fair share of failures at catalog sales. But he was always focused on making money in very creative ways. He had a garage sales. He did paper routes. He did all kinds of things. He even built a button business where he and his brothers would make a button that you could, pin onto your blouse or shirt with anything that you wanted in it, and grew it to be about a $200 per month business that he handed down to his brothers, and he did that in middle school. So he was always an entrepreneur focused on making money in very creative ways. As it turns out, he often broke the rules too. He makes a point in his book to talk about Asian family cultures where they're really focused on academics, and they're focused on music, and they're focused on making money. And he didn't really understand the music stuff, so he would record some of his rehearsals, and when he was supposed to be in his room practicing or downstairs practicing, he would just play the recording, and then he could do whatever the heck he wanted to while the recording was being played on a tape recorder. He says his parents and his music teacher were always very curious about how he could be rehearsing so much and not be improving very much at all, and that's the reason. So here's this guy who is a really famous entrepreneur who has a history of being creative, a history of making it as a success in business and then not making it successful in business, and a history of kind of breaking the rules. And I think that all goes into the history of entrepreneurship. That carried over to where after college he founded a company called Link Exchange, which eventually grew to a very large company, and he sold it to Microsoft in 1996 for $265 million. I don't know if you remember this, but back in the early days of Google, they had their page ranking algorithm that was only dependent upon the number of sites which were linking to your site. So he created a company to take advantage of that and essentially game the system that Google had put into place. As we all know, Google changes the way that they rank websites periodically, and it's far more sophisticated than that. So the link exchange concept simply won't work for you anymore. But it worked really well in the 1995-96 time frame, so much so that he eventually sold the company to Microsoft and made a bundle of money. He took that money and he formed an incubator in San Francisco, and one of the companies that they invested in early on was Zappos. And in 1999, he took a more significant interest in that company and became their CEO, primarily because he was their primary investor and they really needed somebody to come in and provide leadership capability. So he learned the value of providing that the experience to people through parties. Interestingly enough, he denotes in the book how one time he went to a rave or a party and he realized that with the lights and the music and the sound and the people jumping up and down, that people were buying an experience. It wasn't a product. It wasn't a service. It was an experience that people were purchasing when we went to this. And so he started creating his own experiences by throwing great big parties at his penthouse and at his warehouse in downtown San Francisco, parties that people just really loved. And I think that really became ingrained in his culture, became ingrained in who he was a person that provides experiences to other people. And of course, that was a huge lesson for Zappos because, as you'll see here in just a few minutes, they are absolutely focused on providing a great experience to somebody whenever they interact with Zappos. Along the line, he also became a poker player. And I found it especially amusing for his 2 or 3 pages of lessons that he learned as a poker player that he applied to business. Here's some of the most important ones that's really stuck out for me, maybe because they're most relevant to me, but I hope they're also valuable to you too. Number 1 is the table selection is the most important decision that you can make. What he found when he was playing competitive poker, and of course he wants to win and win money, was that he would look at the different tables. And if he saw a table with 5 or 6 people who looked like extremely experienced poker players, and another table where it looked like they were good old boys just having a good time and maybe having a little bit too much to drink and lots of chips on the table, he knew that he could make more money going to play with the good old boys than he could with the experienced poker players. So table selection to him was the most important thing when it came to figuring out how to win at poker for that night. And he decided, hey, it's okay to switch tables if you discover it's too hard to win at your table. And lots of competitors means that it is tougher to win. So we take that into marketing principles for our business, and it says essentially the market in which we choose to play, the market in which we choose to offer our products and services can be one of the most important decisions that we make. And if we find that the market that we are playing or the game that we are playing is too hard to win, that it's okay to switch markets. In other words, it's okay to provide different products and services to different people if, in fact, the dog isn't eating the dog food or the market in which we are currently playing is not paying off the way that we want it to. And with any market that has lots of competitors means that it's tougher to win. I did an office hours presentation a few weeks ago on the blue ocean strategy, which talks about how you can be innovative and creative in ways that essentially make the competition meaningless. So that might be a good one for you to review if that particular poker playing lesson sinks home with you. Another one, a real valuable, is that the guy who wins the most hands isn't necessarily the one who wins the most money. So you can sell, a lot of things at a low price to a lot of people and not make near as much money as the person who really hits a home run every once in a while. That's the message of Silicon Valley. They really like to bet on the guy who's going to win the home run. So there's really 3 or 4 pages of poker playing lessons in this book that I encourage you to go back and review if this is significant for you. And the last one that I have that I relate is that you play only with the money that you can afford to lose. So when you're in business, understand what your limits are. Understand when it's time to perhaps walk away from that particular table, and understand whether you're in a position to play at a high risk or high stakes table than one that has perhaps lower stakes involved with it. On to Zappos itself. Zappos had quite an interesting growth history. It originally started as a website called shoesite.com, which was started by a fellow who realized that 5% of all shoes were being sold via catalogs. Now, that doesn't make sense to me very much, because you'd think that people want to try on their shoes. You'd think that people want to walk around in their shoes. But as it turns out, 5% of shoes were sold via catalogs. And the guy who started shoesite.com, which became Zappos, realized that he could take that catalog shoe sale concept and push it online. And there was not a major player in the field, somebody that was just offering shoes online. Much like when Amazon started in about that same time frame, 95, 96, they realized that people would buy books online, that they didn't necessarily have to go to a bookstore and browse through the books, that if they saw a title and it looked interesting to them, that maybe they would buy those books online. And so that's the way Amazon started. And of course, they broadened out to selling nearly everything online. But this is how Zappos started, essentially as an online catalog site for shoe sales. They had actually an extremely rocky start. One of the things that they faced early on is they started by drop shipping only. They didn't want to carry any inventory at all. So they were only able to work with suppliers that would drop ship shoes, and they would just take the order, take the money, send the notice of drop shipment to the company that was doing the fulfillment and have them ship it out and take a fairly small margin on that. They really wanted to move into carrying their own inventory, which was quite an adventure. One of the things that they had to do was establish a very small storefront in downtown San Francisco in order to get some of the suppliers to actually sell to them, because some of the suppliers wouldn't sell shoes to somebody who just had an online catalog site. It was kind of against their culture or their tradition or maybe against company policy. They really wanted to sell to a traditional retailer, so they became a traditional retailer. Well, all of their shoes that they were purchasing certainly weren't going into the back room at this little tiny retail presence, this storefront they had in San Francisco. In fact, they were going into a great big warehouse, which brings us to one of the most important lessons that Zappos made or learned, and that was that they didn't want to outsource their logistics. They went with a company that said that, hey, we can put up a warehouse for you in, I think it was Louisville, Kentucky, that's only a few minutes away from an airport and in the center of the United States, where you can ship to practically anybody in a day or so. And as most of you know, Memphis, Tennessee is the primary hub for FedEx for exactly the same reason, in a location that is near the center of the United States, both geographically and from a population point of view. So Zappos went with an outsourced fulfillment business, an outsourced warehouse in Louisville, Kentucky, which turned out to be a big mistake. In fact, the service was so bad that they had to establish their own inventory and distribution center just a few minutes away from the one to which they had outsourced. And they learned a fundamental principle of business, and that is to never outsource your core competency. Whatever your core competency is, in their case, it's shipping on time. You don't want to outsource that. So think about for your own business, what is your core competency, because you absolutely don't want to outsource that. You need to have control of that for your company. They had a real struggle from a cash flow point of view, Tony putting in more and more of his own money into the business until they were finally able to get a $100 million line of credit or loan from Wells Fargo. Because they were not incredibly profitable in those early days, they were just rapidly growing. Traditional bank money doesn't want to invest, or doesn't want to loan money, rather, to companies who are not profitable. But Wells Fargo, saw the light, and they realized that, wait a minute, they have a lot of collateral, which was their inventory, and some accounts receivable as well, and they chose to loan them the money based on the collateral that they had for the loan and their track record of growth, even though they didn't have a track record of profitability in those early days, because they were taking all of the funds that they had and investing it back into inventory and back into their own distribution centers. So they weren't very profitable in the early days of the business. But after they got the $100 million loan from Wells Fargo, over the course of the next 7 or 8 years, they grew to have $1 billion worth of revenue in 10 years, which is a phenomenal achievement for a company in a traditional products environment. I believe that Apple Computer set the record a long time ago. From 1977 through 1984, they grew to have a company that had a $1 billion in revenue, but that was a very untraditional business. The mini computer, microcomputer business, the personal computer business as it came to be known in 1981. For Zappos to do that, essentially taking something traditional like shoes and selling it online was tremendous. And such a tremendous thing that they eventually sold to Amazon in 2009 for $1.2 billion. So Tony recouped all of his investment and a whole bunch more. They never did go public. Amazon, of course, is a public company, but Zappos themselves never did go public. They remained a private company until the time that they sold to Amazon, which, by the way, they did that because some of their other early investors were really looking for an exit strategy. For those of you who may be raising capital, you know that that's one of the most important things that an investor will consider when they're thinking about investing in your company, and that is the exit strategy. How am I going to get my money back? And so some of those early investors in Zappos, in addition to Tony, really wanted to have an exit. And there's only two ways to give those people a substantial exit. One was going public, and the other one was through an acquisition. And they chose to, really, it was almost a merger with Amazon. You'll be happy to know that Zappos is operating as an independent subsidiary these days of Amazon. So they retain their own management, their own culture, their own style, and Amazon hasn't impacted that. I really think it's going to go the other way, by the way, that the experience that Zappo has with excellence in customer service and the value that that can bring to your company will eventually impact the Amazon culture, and we'll start seeing even better service from Amazon than we've had in the past. So when the way that Zappos did it, here's we're going to get into some of the aspects of their company culture. First of all, they were a very open company. They had Ask Anything sessions where Tony and the other executives would simply hold a town hall meeting and say, hey, we're here, we're ready to answer any questions that you might have about the business and the future of the business. They're very, very open about their future, even when they had to do some layoffs in 2008, even in the midst of their rapid growth and the midst of having some very impressive growth statistics. They realized because of the recession in the United States and the way their business was off that they were going to have to cut back a little bit, and they did so in 2008. And when they did so, and when they did the merger or acquisition with Amazon.com, they're very, very open about everything that's happened with their company, which I think really encourages people at the company to be more open and honest with the executives because they have this authentic relationship going. They invested in customer service and the customer experience instead of marketing and advertising, working on the theory, which turned out to be absolutely true in their case, that if we can get people to talk about us and refer their friends to us, then it'll be a lot better than any message that we could ever put out in advertising and through other marketing channels. And it's exactly, of course, what happened to them. One of the things that they do is they focus on having a personal emotional connection on every single call. So they train their customer service representatives to really form that. The, hey, how you doing? How's your day going? Really honestly engaging with the clients, with their customers whenever they call in. And that's what they march towards as quickly as possible. Let's have a personal emotional connection with the people that we are talking to and make this be a wonderful experience. One of the quotes that was in the book, and the book is full of a lot of great quotes I want to share with you here, and that is, it's a common trap that marketing people fall into is how to create more buzz when they should really be focusing on how to increase engagement and trust, which is what Zappos focuses on and what really sets them apart from so many other companies. One of the things that's very interesting about the Zappos culture is that they have a 4-week training session for every single person that joins the company, regardless at the level at which you join the company. And at the end of the second week, they offer a $2,000 bonus to anybody who wants to quit. No questions asked. If you feel like Zappos isn't right for you, we would really like for you to make your exit now. And in fact, we're so happy that you're making that choice that we'll give you a couple of $1,000 cash, no questions asked, if you just want to go away. Very, very few people take them up on that. Of course, I think there are people who would take them up on that. I don't know what their percentage is, but they also have a rigorous interview process, making sure that they are only extending offers to people who are really focused on customer service and value the Zappos experience for more than just the paycheck. So here's 10 ways that are identified in the book for you to instill excellence in customer service at your company. Some of which I'm proud to say that we're installing at our company as well here at the Hoyt Management Group. Number one, make excellence in customer service a priority for your entire company. Make wow a verb that is part of your everyday language, as in, did you wow somebody today? Or that was a real wow experience for me. Really sensationalizing and focusing on that in heightened emotional experience that you can get through having a real personal emotional connection with somebody. Empower and trust your service representatives. When whatever they think is best, go for it. Let them do that. And one of the things that we empower them with is the ability to fire customers who are abusing the system or the people. So if you get somebody that's just, gaming the system, they'll order, 10 pairs of shoes and return them all time after time after time. Hey, it's okay to fire that person. Somebody that comes online and either abuses the kindness of your customer service reps or abuses the system by really taking too much time. It's okay to fire them. It's okay. You're not going to have a great, incredible customer experience with every single person that you run across. I always say that 1% of the people out there are crazy, and that may be a little optimistic. I've had other people say that it's probably more than that, but I prefer to say that 1% of the people out there are crazy. So you just can't have a great experience with everybody. And if you're not having a great experience with somebody, then hey, it's okay to suggest that they do business somewhere else where they can have a great experience. One of the things that Zappos does not do is measure call times. They don't force their reps to upsell, and they don't use scripts. They like people to frame it. I think they have a framework for their conversation, like, first step, establish a personal emotional connection, find out what they really want, see if there's anything that you can do to help them and support them, and be joyful about the whole process, but they don't script their sales calls at all. And one of the things that they make a point to do is don't hide your 800 number. They put it prominently on the top of every page at their website so that people know that they can call in and get a hold of somebody who will answer a question or provide service in some way. Here's the other ways that they have to instill customer service. Is you view each call as an investment in building your brand, not as an expense. At Zappos, the brand is excellent customer service. So every interaction that they have with a customer or a prospective customer is an opportunity to build that brand, to engage with somebody, to build that long-term relationship. So they don't view that as an expense. They view every single phone call as an opportunity to build a great relationship and to build their brand, which I really, really like. And you have the entire company celebrate great service. They share great stories with each other. They reward, they applaud, they clap for, they give little gifts to anybody that has a great customer service story that they can share. And many of them were shared in the book themselves. The most amusing one I found out was Tony was at a party with some friends, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and they wanted some pizza, but they didn't know where to get some pizza. So Tony said, well, let's just call Zappos. Maybe they'll help us out. So they did. They called Zappos at 2 a.m. and said, listen, I'm not in the market for shoes right now, but we sure could use some pizza. Can you help us figure out where to get some pizza? And the guy said, well, or the gal says, let me put you on hold. And 5 minutes later, they came back with the name and the phone numbers of 5 different pizza places that were very close, that were still open, and would deliver pizza at 2 a.m. Tony said he was a little bit reluctant to put that example in the book because he didn't want people calling Zappos at 2 a.m. to order pizza, but it's an example of the way that they go out of their way to help their customers, in practically any way that they possibly can. It's that spirit of joyful service that I really loved about Zappos. They make a point to find and hire people who are already passionate about customer service, and that's one of the primary ways that you can instill a great customer service attitude at your company. And the last one on their list of 10 was to give great service to everyone, not just your customers, but also your employees and your vendors. They make a point out of celebrating their suppliers. When they go to conferences, they have great big booths and great big parties to celebrate their vendors. They don't treat vendors as people who need to be abused or squeezed in any sort of way. They treat their vendors with the same respect, with the same joyful service that they do with their customers. It just permeates every aspect of their entire company. One of the things that Zappos is most famous for is the 10 core values that Zappo has, and I'm going to read through these really fairly quickly for you. In the book, they almost have a chapter on every one of these 10 core values. So I encourage you to, of course, read the book, as I always do. Number 1 on their list is to deliver wow through service, which wow, of course, is a verb with them. It means just that they deliver amazement and joyful surprises to everybody they possibly can. They deliver that wow through excellence in customer service. Number 2 value is that we embrace and drive change. At Zappos, we are never content to be where we are today. We know that in keeping up requires change, and to really establish themselves as the world's leader in exceptional customer service, that they have to embrace change and drive change through every aspect of their organization every single day. They want to create a little bit of fun, a little bit of weirdness along the way. So I think people wear whatever they want to wear at Zappos, and people being a little bit eccentric and people having a whole bunch of fun is what's encouraged. It's like a party every day at that company, and it carries through to every interaction they have with their customers and their suppliers and their employees. Be adventurous, creative, and open-minded. Be ready for change. Be creatively spirited in everything that you do. Pursue growth and learning. That's one of the things that I really love about my job and about the business that I have, is the opportunity to pursue growth and learning every single day, and then share that with other people so that they can see the love and the joy that I have, and maybe that shares with them a little bit when it comes to embracing growth and learning at their company. The other 5 are: build an open and honest relationships through communications with the people that you work with. Build a positive team and a family spirit. They go out of the way to have bonding exercises, to have company events, to really build a teamwork and a family environment at Zappos. And one of the things that I appreciate because of my CFO mindset and my analyst mindset is that they try to do more with less. So if they can find a way to reduce an expense, to be a little bit more efficient, a little bit more productive, a little bit more effective in the things that they do, they try to do that. They consistently want to look for ways in which they can do more with less. And to be passionate and determined is one of the things that they do. And the last one is one of my very favorites, and that is being humble. It took me a long, long time to be a humble person. And it's really nice to see that as one of the Zappos 10 core values. Of course, the reason that people aren't humble, the reason that I wasn't humble, is because I was frightened. My insecurity manifests as arrogance and cockiness as opposed to confidence and humility. So I was really pleased to see this on their list as core values, of their core values. Other notable quotes throughout the book is this one. I'm going to share a few of them with you here. Number 1 is: the role of a manager is to remove obstacles and enable his or her direct reports to succeed. This means that the best leaders are servant leaders. They serve those they lead. I really like the servant leader model. And in office hours in the past, I gave a presentation on conscious business leadership. I gave another presentation on the future of management, the book by Gary Hamel, that I really enjoyed. So this is a fundamental way in which we are learning to engage and interact within a corporate environment, is with the servant leader model, and Zappos exemplifies that. Here's another great quote for you. We must never lose our sense of urgency when it comes to making improvements. We must never settle for good enough, because good is the enemy of great, and our goal is to be the greatest service company in the world. So they're never satisfied with where they are. I know that they provide excellent customer service today, but they want to provide even better customer service tomorrow, to be even more excellent and magnificent and fantastic in customer service tomorrow than they were today. So here's the bottom line for you, the lessons that I think that you can learn from this book, Delivering Happiness, and the entire Zappos success story. First of all is that exceptional service can be a fantastic differentiator. There is still room in our world for more joy, for more compassion, for more excellence in customer service. Good customer service is kind of the anti-point anymore. Excellent customer service, joyful customer service, out of the way customer service, extraordinary customer service can still differentiate you in the marketplace, and it's a way to increase the business that you have through referrals and through testimonials as opposed to through marketing and advertising. Joyful service can permeate the entire organization. So it's not just the customer service people or your customers that benefit from this joyful service mentality. It's the entire company. It's the folks in the warehouse. It's the folks in the accounting department. It's the folks at, in the finance department, the people who run the company in other ways that are impacted by this mentality, by this mindset, by this perspective of joyful customer service. And one of the most important lessons is that feelings and experiences are super, super important. The way that you make people feel about themselves when they interact with you is by far the most important thing. And by the way, that's one of my business success principles directly from the product Beyond Business Survival. The number one success principle in the area of customer service is about how you make people feel about themselves. And that can be an extremely good differentiator for your business too. And of course, you can apply these concepts and principles in your personal life too. So it's not just about providing great service to customers that you talk to on the phone. It's about doing it with your brothers and sisters, with your parents, with your children, with your spouse, with your significant other. You can have that joyful service attitude in other aspects of your personal life as well and see the benefits that it pays for you there. So in our program today, we wanted to talk a little bit about Tony Hsei's beginnings and his history of being a serial entrepreneur. We shared a bit of the poker playing lessons because I really liked those. We talked about Zappo's growth history and how they did it. We talked about a list that I found in the book on the 10 ways to instill customer service at your company, the 10 famous Zappos core values, a couple of other quotes that I really liked, and the bottom line. So here's your homework and your exercises. Number one, if this means anything to you, if the history of Zappos and the way that they employed excellence in customer service to build a business from scratch to $1 billion in revenue in 10 years, if you think that there might be some things in there that are meaningful to you, and if you found this presentation meaningful, I strongly encourage you to go buy the book and read it, because there's a lot more there than I was able to present today in about 30 or 40 minutes to you. Make some of these changes in your company right away. Define the core values of your company with your team so that they become your core values, and work every day at providing a joyful service experience at every place in your organization. And then, as I always say, get coaching and mentoring and support that you need to accelerate your growth and make progress in the way of instilling these great ideas in customer service in your company. We're going to have open questions and answers here in just a minute, where we'll have comments and questions on the topic of the day, and then any other issues that you want to talk about. Tell me what your biggest insights were, your takeaways that you got from the presentation, and post those in our Facebook Brilliant Business groups if you would. I'm really curious to see how you intend to employ some of these ideas in your company. As you get to know us more, you'll know that we have several distinctions in the marketplace. First of all, I don't want a lot of your money. I want you to spend an appropriate amount of money on education, coaching, consulting, and training services. But right now, I want you to get the support that you most need, the support that you can use right away, and the support that you can afford right away. I don't want you to jump into the deep end before you learn to swim. That means if you're not don't have a long track record of entrepreneurial experience, then maybe it's best for you to start a business that's less complex than other businesses. But before you can even tell what that means, it's probably a pretty good idea for you to get coaching and support in your team. I also don't believe that belief and persistence alone will guarantee your success. I've seen far too many people work hard with the greatest of great intentions and not achieve the success that they wanted, primarily because they didn't have the support that they needed. They didn't have an effective business model, that they were banging their heads against the wall, and regardless of how much effort that they put in and their best of intentions, they were never going to be successful. As a consequence, our support services include education, training, coaching, and consulting services, and recently our growth management services, where we'll stay with you week by week, day by day if necessary, to help you manage the process of growing your company. I encourage you to sign up for our new Business Growth Acceleration Kit. You can go to paulhoyt.com/CEO bonus. And in that kit, we got a new presentation I created called The 5 Choices of Winning CEOs, an article on the 10 things that I think that you should know about raising capital, if in fact you're thinking about raising capital for your business, some samples of my inspirational works, and most of you that know me know that I'm not only passionate about business growth, but I'm also passionate about personal and spiritual growth as well. And I've written some books in that area, and We give some samples away in this program. A free half-hour business clarity session with Stephanie, who's on the call with us today, or myself, and some surprise bonuses that we have. I think the value of this Business Growth Acceleration Kit is enormous. If you want to make great progress in your business in a short period of time, I strongly encourage you to sign up for this and to consume the things that we provide for free just for the opportunity to continue to stay in connection with you. I also encourage you to purchase my CEO training program. BeyondBusinessSurvival.com is the place that you can go to do that. It's what you need to know when you're the CEO. This entire book that we just reviewed on delivering happiness, I think, can be summed up in one of the business success principles that is offered in this book, which is focusing on excellence in the customer experience as the fundamental business success principle in the area of customer service. Our next office hours is going to be next Monday. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about. So if you have some ideas, go to paulsurvey.com and sign up and let me know of any books that you've read, any ideas that you want to share with us, or a person that you think might be great to interview on an office hours call in the future. I'd like to know about that because I want to bring value to you in the way that you see that I can do that. So let me know how I can do that. In the meantime, do your homework. Now we're going to open it up for questions and answers. First, comments and questions on the topic of the day, and then any other issues that you would like to address. Share your takeaways and insights, and of course, go to paulsurvey.com to let us know of things that you would like for me to address in future office hours presentations. And with that, I'm going to open it up to questions and discussion points. Stephanie, are you on the call? Do we have any questions or discussion points for today?
Hello, we sure do. Got a couple right here. The first one, should I adopt Zappo's 10 core values for my company?
That's a good question, and I think I would encourage you to review them, but I think the basic answer is no. Every company, I believe, should look to the team that they have at the company to form their own core values that matches their particular company culture and their experience. So I think that you can look at these core values, and I would encourage you to go online and look at all kinds of core values out there. Zappos themselves, by the way, said that when they initially came up with their list of core values, that there were 37 of them, and it was only through a lot of discussions amongst the people who were working together to form their list of core values that they were able to narrow that to 10. So my preferred process would be one of a brainstorming, masterminding process and kind of a research process by which your company comes up with dozens of potential core values, and then through the process of discussion and multiple iterations through the process, narrow that down to your top 10 or your top 8 or your top 7 that really personify and capture the essence of the company that you have created and the company that you want to create over time. So don't take them as anything more than an example of a company that defined core values for themselves.
Excellent.
Next, Stephanie.
Well, one of the things that when you were answering that, it came to my mind is amongst our yearly or quarterly, or I guess that's my question, when you're reviewing your plans and your strategies and your other short and long-term goals for your business, the core values, how often do you think as a company that you should come back and review those and assess? And as you said, Zappo started with 37, so.
I think I remember somewhere in Zappos of saying that almost at every meeting they review the vision of the company and the core values of the company. That might have been a leftover from one of the companies that was researched in the office hours presentation I did a few weeks ago on the future of management. But I think it's really whatever suits your company. For some companies, we want to start out every single status meeting with a reminder of what our vision is. We want to start every single status meeting or staff meeting with, an inspirational moment of some kind. So I really think that that's up to you how often you review those. One of the traditions they have at Zappos was that when somebody especially is new at the company, anybody has the right to go over and just say, number 7. And that person's supposed to know exactly what core value number 7 is. Or somebody might yell out, number 2. And they're supposed to be able to immediately tell what core value number 2 is. So they review those, I think, both formally in the sense of staff meetings and status meetings, but they do it informally as well. And they make a game out of it. They make it fun to do, to really ingrain those 10 core values in every single person at the company. So I'd say review them constantly. That'd probably be my best advice, constantly throughout the day, and make it fun and make it exciting and make it a game to play to get people to really focus in on those core values so that you can have that mindset, that perspective, that energy of excellence in joyful service, every second of every day. Next questions.
We do got a little comment here.
Okay.
Hire people with the same core values. Key takeaway that Sean got from this. Hire people with the same core values.
That's a good one, Sean. And by the way, I've worked with human resources firms before that do that exact thing. That one of the things that they do is ask your company to define the core values, and then they'll come up with an interviewing process and interviewing questions that are designed to find people who operate in a manner that's consistent with your core values. For example, if one of your core values is excellence in customer service, they might ask a question on an interview about, can you tell me some times in which you have provided excellent customer service to somebody, and especially those times when you've gone out of your way to provide excellent customer service, which is a great interview question for a company that values people who have an excellent customer service mindset. So yeah, there's even a science to that, of making sure that you're hiring people who operate in a manner that's consistent with your core values through the interviewing process itself, and of course through the onboarding and the training process thereafter. Great comment. Thank you for that. Other comments and questions?
Next question. How can I make my clients feel more loved and appreciated?
That's, I think that that's something that's ongoing every day. One of the ways, of course, is to be very responsive. Somebody sends you a text, gives you a phone call, sends you an email, to make it part of your habit, your company culture, your policies and your procedures, if you want to document it, that you're going to be extremely responsive to other people. Another way is to treat them with joyful respect and courtesy on every single phone call, or every single interaction. When you ask somebody, hey, how are you doing? Mean it. Ask the question in such a way that where they know that you really care about them, that you want them to have that personal, emotional connection with you, at every interaction that you have. So, I think the most important thing that you can do when it comes to instilling excellence in customer service is make sure that you're in that headspace, to make sure that you have that mindset for yourself. A long time ago, in 1995 or so, I used to go around the country and teach classes in excellence in customer service. And one of the most important principles that we taught people was to smile whenever you're on the phone. If you need to put a big happy face on your monitor or on your telephone or, wherever to remind you to smile when you are on the phone, it helps you go into that joyful mindset, that courteous and professional, respectful, cheerful mindset, so that you can have that energy about yourself and communicate it to other people, with the smile that they can't see, but they can hear it in the way that you're talking to them. And hopefully you can hear that in my voice as well whenever I do these office hours presentations, that I step into that space of having that joyful energy so that you can hear it and feel it and bring it into your own life too. So that's probably the most important thing about having great customer service, is making sure that you're in that place yourself, that you're in that joyous servant, kind of mindset before you ever have that conversation with the customer. Great question. Next, Stephanie.
One more question.
Okay.
The impact of social media, how important, or what impact on customer service has social media created?
You know, I'm blessed to have an expert in social media on my team, so I'll answer this in my own way. First of all, you know, everything that you do on social media is like taking something and posting it on a bulletin board in the middle of the town square. Realize that everything that you put on social media will get as a possibility of being shared with anybody and everything. So don't put anything in social media that you don't want your grandmother to read and that you don't want your boss to read. There are numerous examples of somebody, you know, posting on social media in a bit of frustration of something like, man, I just took a new job today and these people are absolute idiots. They're bozos. I can't wait to get out of here and find the next job. Well, you know, you can be pretty much guaranteed if you post that on social media that it won't be long before you have the opportunity to find your next job because people are going to find out about that. So don't say anything in social media that you don't want your grandmother to read and you don't want your boss to read or your coworkers to read, because the odds are pretty good that they're going to have a chance to see that at some point in time. On the other side of that, you have an opportunity in social media to speak well of your boss, or to speak well of your colleagues, to speak well of the service that you provide, in a way that, as long as it's open and authentic and honest and in integrity, might get promoted and shared as well as those negative messages might get shared around. So social media, you know, it's a way of life today, especially a way of life with, you know, the younger generation, the kids that got their first smartphone when they were 16 years old or 14 years old, and they've been using them now for, you know, 5 or 7 years. It's a way of life for them, that transparency, that almost complete lack of privacy, but certainly the openness and transparency with which they express themselves. And it's only going to get more and more popular over time. So if you have something that is frustrating or it's a little bit of shadow energy that you want to express, my encouragement is that you find somebody to express it one-on-one to, you know, who doesn't have a tape recorder or a video camera on you, so that you can have that moment of venting and that moment of expressing yourself, which, by the way, can be very healthy. And I'm not saying don't hold in your frustrations. I'm saying express them in a way that's healthy for you today and can be prosperous for you in the future, so that you're not capturing those things on video or on, you know, in a text message somewhere, so that it stays on the internet for all time, because you don't want to do that. There's no point in doing that. Any other topics or discussion points or questions, Stephanie, today?
No, sir, that's it.
Well, with that, I'm going to thank you all for watching this particular office hours episode or session. I really enjoy the opportunity to bring this information to you. It makes me a better consultant and a better coach with every book that I read and every one of these office hours sessions that I do. And I'm really happy to have the experience to do that. Thank you again for tuning in. And until we meet again, this is Paul Hoyt wishing you a most marvelous and prosperous day. Bye-bye.